The sound of tearing fabric echoed across the grand ballroom of a luxury hotel in Chicago, and for a moment, everything seemed to stop. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, guests froze in shock, and a young maid stood motionless as pieces of her uniform slipped from her hands. But what happened next was something no one expected. The billionaire's fiancée, who had torn the uniform in anger, suddenly noticed a scar on the maid's shoulder. The moment she saw it, the color drained from her face. The room fell silent. And within seconds, a secret buried for more than 20 years began to unravel. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that one act of kindness can change a life forever. The maid's name was Grace Collins. At 26 years old, she worked long hours cleaning hotel suites and helping prepare private events. Most guests barely noticed her existence. She carried trays, folded linens, and quietly disappeared into the background. Yet behind her gentle smile was a life marked by hardship. Grace had grown up in foster care after being separated from her family as a small child. She remembered almost nothing about her early years except flashes of a warm voice singing lullabies and a terrible stormy night that changed everything. Since then, she had spent her life searching for stability and purpose. That evening, the hotel was hosting an engagement celebration for Ethan Walker, one of the youngest billionaires in the country, and his fiancée, Vanessa Harper. Vanessa was admired for her beauty and elegance, but many employees feared her sharp temper. Every detail of the event had to be perfect. As Grace carefully arranged flowers near the stage, a tray slipped from another employee's hands. A glass rolled across the floor and stopped near Vanessa's feet. Furious and embarrassed in front of the guests, Vanessa blamed Grace even though she had done nothing wrong. In a moment of anger, Vanessa grabbed part of Grace's uniform and tore it, humiliating her before hundreds of people. Gasps filled the room. Grace lowered her eyes, fighting back tears. Years of being overlooked and judged suddenly rushed back. But then Vanessa saw the scar. It was a small crescent-shaped scar just below Grace's shoulder. Vanessa stared at it as if she had seen a ghost. Her hands trembled. Memories she had not thought about in decades flooded her mind. When she was 7 years old, her younger sister had disappeared during a devastating tornado that struck their hometown in Oklahoma. In the chaos, their family had become separated. Search efforts lasted months, but the child was never found. The only detail Vanessa remembered clearly was a crescent-shaped scar her little sister had received after falling from a bicycle. Vanessa could barely breathe. She asked Grace a few questions. Grace answered cautiously, revealing that she had no records from before the age of 4 and had been found alone after a major storm. The similarities were impossible to ignore. Over the following days, DNA tests were arranged. Ethan quietly supported the process, while Grace struggled to believe any of it could be real. She had spent her entire life wondering where she came from. Part of her feared disappointment. Another part desperately wanted the truth. When the results arrived, every doubt vanished. Grace Collins was actually Hannah Harper, Vanessa's long-lost sister. The revelation shook everyone involved. Reporters soon heard rumors of the extraordinary reunion, but the family chose to keep most details private. What mattered was not the headlines. What mattered was healing. Vanessa was overwhelmed by guilt. The woman she had publicly humiliated was the sister she had mourned for most of her life. She remembered birthdays spent crying, family dinners with an empty chair, and her parents' endless hope that one day Hannah would return. Now she understood that while Grace had survived, she had endured years without the love and support of her family. For weeks, Vanessa tried to make amends. She visited Grace every day, listened to her stories, and apologized sincerely. Forgiveness did not happen overnight. The wounds of the past ran deep. But Grace saw genuine remorse in her sister's eyes. Slowly, walls that had existed for decades began to come down. Their parents were elderly by then. When they learned the truth, tears flowed freely. The moment they embraced Grace for the first time since childhood became one of the most emotional days of their lives. No amount of wealth could compare to the joy of finding a lost family member. Ethan also played an important role. Inspired by Grace's resilience, he partnered with her to create a foundation that helped young adults aging out of foster care. Thousands of young people received educational support, housing assistance, and career opportunities because of their efforts. What began as a painful moment of humiliation transformed into a mission that changed countless lives. As the years passed, Grace never forgot where she came from. She remained humble, compassionate, and grateful. The scar that once reminded her of loss became a symbol of reunion, healing, and hope. It reminded her that even when life seems unfair, some answers arrive when we least expect them. Before this story ends, I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment and tell us, do you believe forgiveness can heal even the deepest family wounds? Vanessa often said that the worst moment of her life became the beginning of her greatest lesson. She learned that every person carries a story we cannot see, and kindness should never depend on someone's position, appearance, or job title. Grace taught her that true strength is found not in holding on to pain but in choosing grace when forgiveness feels impossible. And if this story touched your heart, please support the video with a like, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Sometimes the people we overlook today may become the greatest blessings in our lives tomorrow. As the Harper family gathered together years later for a simple Sunday dinner, laughter filled the room. The empty place at the table that had existed for more than 2 decades was finally occupied. Grace looked around at the faces she had searched for her entire life and realized something beautiful. Home was never a place. It was the people who never stopped hoping you would return. And after years of uncertainty, she had finally found her way back.